Welcome back to the Motherload, everyone. As always, we have discussions throughout all of our episodes about topics that I feel are really important when it comes to raising kids in this day and age. And the next topic we're going to discuss is something that we've seen a lot recently in headlines specifically, and that is gaming platforms and predators, or when it comes to exploitation, knowing who your kids are talking to and what their intentions are. I don't have a lot of experience when it comes to this. So I had to bring in some help, not even just for you, but for me as well, to make sure we have all the information we need. And that is my good friend here, Jody Neal, who is an author and a lawyer. Jody, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on this very important topic.
Yes, so let's talk a little bit about that. Before we deep dive into all of it, I just kind of want to introduce you to our viewers and talk a little bit about how you even got into this space and why it's so important to you.
Thank you. Well, I got into the space because I was assigned. I was a
Mhm.
prosecutor, and this was in the late aughts, 2006, 2007. And, I was a good soldier and I wasn't going to say no. And when I got assigned to the division, I spent the first month crying every night because of the atrocities that I could not even wrap my head around. I was
Mhm.
26.
Wow.
And but I stuck with it. I wasn't going to quit. I wasn't going to fail. And I ended up having the most beautiful experiences with children who were survivors of child sexual abuse largely.
Mhm.
And I was their prosecutor and I held their hand going into the courtroom and I got them through it and their families. I also dealt with the child sexual abuse material, the CSAM.
Mhm.
And I went back to the DA's office this in 2024 for a short time, and the advances in technology were far more disturbing than I could have anticipated. The
Yeah.
use of AI, all the various platforms that perpetrators have to find our kids, and it made me terrified as I'm a mother of two daughters who also play
Yeah.
Roblox.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what really turned me onto this topic and this conversation is because I have two young children myself. My son is about to turn 9 years old, so he's very much into the gaming space, and he's introduced that to my 6-year-old daughter. And so I have become so hypersensitive and aware to the fact that these games and these chat rooms essentially are so readily available to kids, and they're still kids. They're so naive. Sometimes they don't understand what they're getting into, or what they're being pulled into. And so I really just wanted to have this chat with you because, as you mentioned, you're very deeply connected to this. As someone who works in a newsroom, I've seen and read a lot of material that people may be unaware of, just how dangerous this space is and this can be. So let's talk a little bit more about this. You know, parents might think has nothing to do with me. That wouldn't be my kid. But I think that kind of tends to happen a lot more than we realize, right?
Yeah, and that right there has got to be confronted. And I
Mm,
like to call that rose-colored glasses.
mm,
We have got to take them off, otherwise our children will be the next victims.
yeah.
It's not just a theory, it is a
Mm,
fact. And
yeah.
even as a professional working in this space, a perpetrator approached my child on Roblox. So vigilance, it's not hypervigilance, it's your maternal instincts that are telling you this is a place where my children are in danger, and this
Yeah.
is a place where I am right to be concerned. And we have to
Yeah.
take off the rose-colored glasses and look at the evidence,
Mhm.
evidence-based parenting.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, right? Because we're starting to see these reports come out or these statements where, sites like Roblox are saying we're doing more, we're trying to change how kids have access, or, these potential predators have access. But I don't think that we can solely rely on that, right? I mean, we as parents have to be really aware of what's going on. So, what are some of those things that we should be looking for, paying attention to when it comes to that?
That app has proven that they are not able to manage their platform effectively. Right now,
Mm,
as we speak, some of the best trial lawyers in the country are organizing a multi-district litigation against Roblox.
mm.
So as parents, we are grateful for the times of quiet, right? But the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is the times of quiet are when the perpetrators are doing what they do best, and that
Mm,
is like any criminal enterprise, they are looking to get in, get what they want, and get out quickly. They do not
Mm,
want to leave evidence behind.
mhm,
And, unfortunately, I think we're in a position where if your child is playing Roblox, we then have to ask follow-up questions. Did
mhm,
anyone try and contact you? Did you
yeah,
talk to anyone that was not someone you know? Did they ask you any weird questions? Did they tell you not to tell your parents?
mm,
And, it was only through asking those types of questions that I found out that my daughter had been approached by a perpetrator on Roblox.
mm,
And, letting them know they need to know that anytime something feels icky to them, we are there for them.
yeah,
They're not being stupid. They're going to be heard. Their parents
mhm,
are going to take this seriously. We're going to get the app. We're going to get their device and look at it.
yeah,
And they need to know
yeah,
that they're not alone.
yeah.
We are on the case.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. We talk a lot in this show about having that connection with your kids at any age, right? And for me, being able to look at my kids and say, I need you to be able to trust me, just like I need to be able to trust you. And even if it's something you're a little maybe, scared to approach me about, you don't know how to approach me with it, I need to know what's going on in your life. Like I need to know because my job is to protect you. So, I mean, in your experience as somebody who has seen a lot of this firsthand, but then having that own experience with your daughter, I mean, how do you approach that? How do you go about that in a way that we don't completely turn our kids off and they don't just shut down and kind of ice us out?
And that is such a great question. It's the fine line between using a developmentally appropriate verbiage, talking to your children, meeting them where they are, but emphasizing that we live in a world with all kinds of different people. And, on occasion, I will tell my daughters or show them a headline and say, look, this is the reason why you don't have Roblox anymore. Because, a
Yeah.
child went to New York to meet a perpetrator, a grown-up who tricked him into coming there just in
Mm,
December. And then it
mhm.
happened again to two kids this February. So it's really
Yeah.
important that they know the reality of the world where we live. And I know we don't
Yeah.
want to pollute their innocence, but what's the outcome if we don't give
Yeah.
them reality? It means they're
Yeah.
they're very easy prey.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. Like we don't want to remove their innocence so early on, but at the same time, the world is so different than it was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
And we don't always have those liberties anymore. So I want to talk a little bit about too, though, the fact that you are so deeply involved in this space when initially it was something that you weren't even thinking about. It wasn't maybe on your radar at that point. But you've become an author and you really are out there trying to make sure that people have all the tools that they need to continue to make sure these things don't happen again. I mean, just what's some of the messaging that you want to put out there for our viewers who may be watching this and maybe realizing that this is a much bigger issue than many of us thought?
That is a great question. And, it really starts with prevalence. And when you asked earlier about the rose-colored glasses, this is someone else's problem. The fact is that we know from the most recent CDC data that at least 45% of women, adult
Mm,
women in this country, have survived contact sexual violence. And when that has happened, it puts rose-colored glasses on you because you do not want to deal with the reality of what has happened to you in the past. You're
yeah.
still locking it into a file cabinet in the back of
Mm,
your head
yeah.
and pretending like this hasn't happened to you, surviving.
Mhm.
And what that does is it creates an echo chamber that is disconnected from the reality where we live. And so I would say to the listeners, we've got to find peace inside ourselves so that we can parent better
Mm,
because we can't have blind spots when it
mhm.
comes to internet predators or any predators.
Yeah.
And it's not being hyper vigilant, it's not being paranoid. It is the world where we live.
Yeah.
And we've got to be at the top of our game every day to the best of our ability to keep our kids safe.
Yeah.
It's just the facts.
Yeah.
And
It
so
really is.
I'm encouraging everyone to take the step to become unfrozen, to say
Mhm.
the truth about what's happened to them,
Mhm.
even if it's just to yourself,
Mhm.
so that you can begin the process of releasing, of gently taking off your rose-colored glasses.
Yeah. I love that, especially because, we're raising kids in a time where not only is technology so readily available, a lot of them grew up with devices in their hands, but now we've got the implementation of AI, and technology is just so rapidly evolving
Yeah.
that we have to educate ourselves and we have to constantly be aware of what's going on too.
It's true. It's true. I mean, one in four, the CDC says that one in four little girls will be sexually assaulted before they turn 18. But that number does not count internet predators.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's known perpetrators, 90% known perpetrators. So do the math.
Yeah.
The
Oh my
threat is
God.
real.
It really is. And I thank you so much for giving us some of the tools to use to be able to be aware, but how to handle that as well. I think it's so important to have. And you really helped to open my eyes to a lot of things as well. So like I told our viewers, it's not just for you, it's for me too. I'm learning right there with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm shouting this from the rooftops, and I'm grateful for your support and for all the viewers who were able to make it through this segment. They've already gone a long part of the way to taking off the rose-colored glasses.
Absolutely. Jody Neal, thank you so much. I really appreciate our conversation today.
Thank you. I hope you have a great day. I'm here for you anytime.